Assessing the quality of the student work is a crucial part of a teacher's role as a professional. Not only it is important to evaluate students' work accurately, but it is also vital to offer students feedback so that they can improve their academic skills and performance. By the way, I'm Dave Suene Ahas, your reporter, and good day to all of us English majors and welcome to the English Language and Teaching class. Another topic will be introduced today all about standards. The standards-based assessment, of course, will be guided by the learning objectives as we go through this lesson. And these are the learning objectives. What is standards-based assessment? The purpose or the goal of standards-based assessment? And why is it being called as standards? Of course, we'll be tackling about ELD standards, or known as English Language Development Standards, ELD assessment, teacher standards, CASAs and SCANs, and lastly, the consequences of standards-based and standardized testing. These learning objectives will be answered, so please stay put until the end of this discussion. And to remind you that you are not clicking this video because of the accident, you are here because you want to learn. So without any further ado, good morning! And let's proceed to the bottom line of this simplified lesson. A standard-based assessment is assessment that relies on evaluating student understanding with respect to agreed-upon standard known as outcomes. Or standard-based assessment is a method of evaluating student skill mastery that intended to help students and teachers understand accurately how the students are doing as they work on developing their skills. The purpose or the goal of standard-based assessment is to let students know against which criteria a teacher will judge their work and the standards attached to each of the criteria. It tells students what performance is required and allows teachers to make comparisons between students based on their achievement of the standards. So why is it called standards? Simply because the teacher or the curriculum is setting standards and expecting students by what those standards are applied. Let's say in the ELD standard or English Language Development Standard, obviously this is a standard of developing language, particularly English, about grammar, speaking, and even in writing skills. So these are just a few standards of ELD to develop students when it comes to the language, for example. Now, in ELD assessment, this is now a process of assessing students to reach those standards in ELD. Let's say engaging students into a public speaking for their speaking skills, writing essays, articles, and even a research paper for their writing skills. All of this training ground will have an advantage to develop the grammar knowledge of the students as well. And for the comprehensive adult student assessment, it is a program designed to provide broadly based assessment of ESL or English as a second language, or in short, it is an assessment instrument used to measure the functional reading, writing, speaking skills, and higher order thinking skills. And for the Secretary's Commission in Achieving Necessary Skills, or SCANs, outlines the competencies necessary for language in the workplace, most especially the competencies that cover language function in terms of interpersonal skills, teamwork, customer service, technology use, and application. These CASAs and SCANs are one of the method processes used to assess students to develop those mentioned skills. To create standards for learning, of course, it all being generated by a teacher. It is relevant for a teacher to equip himself with standards as well, or known as teacher standards when it comes to professional teaching. Just like the teacher can demonstrate the standards when it comes to their teaching, because student learning is at the heart of the teacher's performance. And now let's talk about the consequences of standard-based and standardized testing. If you are wondering why there is standardized testing in my discussion which is standard-based assessment, since we know that assessment and tests are different. However, test is part of assessment, or should I say that all tests can be an assessment, but not an assessment is a test. So that's the difference or the gap between the functions of the two terms. Assuming yourself that you're taking a standardized test like TOEFL or IELTS, of course there will be consequences for that, like test bias, test-driven learning and teaching, and the ethical issue, particularly the critical language teaching. Now I will show you the screen the reasons behind. Standardized tests involve a number of types of test bias, and according to Medina and ELE in 1990, that bias comes from in many forms like language, culture, race, gender, and learning styles. And for the test-driven learning and teaching, a student focus obsessively on passing the exam and scoring badly on the test can greatly affect students' confidence and lead to test anxiety. And for the ethical issue, particularly the critical language testing, are the following. Psychometric traditions are challenged by interpretative, individualized procedures for predicting success and evaluating ability. Test designers have a responsibility to offer multiple of performance to account for varying styles and abilities among test takers. Tests are deeply embedded in culture and ideology. Test takers are political subjects in a political context. And to come up for a conclusion, standard-based assessment is something like you're looking at the mirror and seeing yourself what to develop to make yourself presentable. The same thing in the world of academia, the teachers have always been assessing students to develop mastery on their skills. However, we should also consider those mentioned consequences of standard-based assessment. Once again, I'm Dave Suenaas. Thank you for watching and God bless.